This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
With that, where my camera I'm looking at, I will open this meeting of the Easthampton Planning Board for Tuesday, April 19th, 2022. No members are remote, although members of the public are, and we are recording the meeting. So first item on the agenda is public speak. Does anyone have anything that is not on the agenda they would like to comment on tonight? No board members, no one in the room. Anybody on, I guess we're on Google Meet now. Anybody remote with anything to speak to that is not on the agenda tonight? All right, seeing nothing, moving on. We have some planning board minutes. So first up is February 15th, 2022. Everyone have a chance to look at these?
Yes.
And before we get into the votes, Danny, so I went and did a little digging on the open meeting law thing because I do these trainings myself and I've always been told not to vote on them, but you don't, open meeting law is silent on how you approve minutes. Some boards do them, just the chair does it administratively, some do it by vote. I think we can just let people vote if they want to or not, whether they were there or not. But if anybody else has any other thoughts, it's fine. It feels weird to me to vote on a meeting that I wasn't at. But
yeah, so anybody who wasn't on what's being referenced is during the training that I had for the open meeting law, a question came up and it came up twice and it was answered by the proctor of the meeting. And the question was, could a board member approve meeting minutes for a meeting that they did not attend? And the answer was yes, twice. It was brought up again because I think the person was just like us. So a little surprised at that answer. So I shared that.
No rule against that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I certainly wouldn't
because I know
stand in the way of it. I don't think
that one time.
I can't remember us ever having anything but an unanimous vote. And because we can do it even with one person administratively doing it, I don't think it really matters.
Agreed. Although I prefer to abstain myself if I was absent.
I think I would probably do that too. But okay, so the first one is February 15th, and we were all present.
Motion to approve the minutes for February 15th.
Go ahead. Second.
All right, voting to approve February 15 minutes. We don't have to do this roll call vote because we're all in person.
Yeah.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? All right. Next up is March 1st, 2022. Again, everyone was present.
Motion to approve the minutes for March 1st.
Second.
All right, voting to approve the March 1st, 2022 minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? All right.
Yeah, I like this.
And last one's minutes for March 8th, 2022.
Motion to approve the minutes for March 8th, 2022.
I second.
All right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? All right. Plugging right along. Next item on the agenda is review and discuss the open meeting law complaint. So there was an open meeting law complaint filed against the planning board requesting certificates that we had received the open meeting law, which is required under the open meeting law. And apparently, I don't know if they were lost or we didn't all hand them in or what, but so I think the response to that, and I'm not sure if the town clerk or Jeff is handling that or town council, but I think our response will be that we all have done that since then.
Yeah, Lindsay Miller had requested.
Yeah.
Sent it to her today.
Yeah,
Just
okay.
for the record.
All right.
If I may.
Yeah.
There's more to that. The request that Lindsay put out seemed to be to attend the seminars. The webinars, thank you for correcting. Which, I had an immediate problem with. They're all during business hours and we work. So I sent an email to the state and to you and to the mayor indicating that. And then I signed up taking PTO out of my day today to attend the webinar today. And during the webinar, it was a very good webinar, although if you've been for a decade or more, right. It's like being forced to watch Sesame Street for 90 minutes. No offense to them. They're giving good information for new board members, for people who've been there. This is a waste of our, I hope someone's watching this, that's a waste of our state's money. Not just, I'm not being paid, but the people from the AG's office that's not how they should be spending their time. And so I asked, besides that question, they said that there are, in fact, evening hours. There were none.
No, I know. So I went today too. So I did one a few months ago. I think that was separate from the open meeting law complaint. I think that's, it's a requirement under the law that we do those, but I couldn't find my receipt. So I went today on my lunch and I watched the same one. I think ended it too. And I saw this, I can't see anyone because it's a webinar, right? But they did say she acknowledged, we don't have any up on the website now, but we cycle through morning, afternoon, weekends, or evenings, and maybe even weekends or something, but there's none up there now. Yeah. So I think that's all good.
And she said we would get a receipt proving, because there's a second
Yeah.
question I asked, is how do we know?
Emailed.
And I haven't received it yet. So
Oh, wow,
It
okay.
usually takes a day or two.
when I get it, it'll go to you or to Lindsay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments?
There's one more about that I wanted to put out there, and that is that Lindsay issued it as a friendly reminder. I don't know if anyone else caught that.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. It's good to know, but I kind of got the sense that maybe we should have already known about it, or these have been happening. I guess going forward, I'm going to put this in my schedule that maybe in, I don't know what, March, I need to look for these, or like.
They do them all year.
I got an email back in March and I signed up for one.
Really?
I did this like a month or two ago, I want to say.
Okay, good.
And I could understand why it might be tedious for someone that the experience that you have, but for someone like me who's new to the board, I did find it really helpful.
It was a good training.
I do the trainings for the cities and towns I represent, so I think it's incredibly valuable. I can't imagine not having people do it.
What is it annual? Do you have to? Do you have?
So I can't remember if the trainer is annual or each time you get reappointed, but there is a requirement. I think it's for each appointment, but we can check that. So that might be why, because I think we both got reappointed recently, right? So that might be why we haven't done one in a couple of years. I can't remember, but
they would normally do the annual slideshow, and at the end you just print the receipt, right? We have to do that every year.
Yep.
Which is a nice little refresher.
And the conflict of interest thing as well. Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know if it was COVID or what, and if it didn't make it to us from the city, or it made it and we sort of lost it in the shuffle or something, but I think we'll get back into the flow on that stuff.
Yeah, a reminder when it's coming up too would be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that'll be good. Any comments or questions about this from members of the public that are remote? I don't even know how to give instructions on Google Meet. I assume you can unmute yourself and just talk if you would like to remotely with a small crowd.
Raise your hand.
Oh yeah, or you can raise your virtual hand.
And can anyone remote hear us? Is it coming out?
Jeff, I assume, can you just give a thumbs up if you can hear us?
You would think he would.
Yeah, all right. So the audio is working. All right.
2-second delay.
Bit of a delay.
Then with that, we will move to the next item on the agenda, which is City Planner Jeff Bagg giving us an update on the 40R overlay district. Jeff, let's see how the remote works.
Yes, great. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I'm Jeff Bagg. I'm the city planner. I don't know if my name comes up on your screen, but I am presenting remotely this evening to give it a test run. So what Eli is in the room, which as a participant at home, you can't see Eli, but Eli is our new assistant planner, and he's also in the room with you guys. But we just figured it was a good opportunity to give an update. And so the 40R was something that the planning board held joint public hearings with the ordinance subcommittee on for several months. And I did want to just give an update that it did get transmitted to city council. So it is in their packet for the meeting that's coming up on May 4th. City council is going to hold its required public hearing for that. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to try to share my screen for you folks and the folks at home. We to finish the process and close the gap between your last meeting. I am just putting up on the screen here a copy of the letter that was the approval letter from DHCD. And interestingly, from my point of view, I got stuck here earlier is that I can't move that document around easily. So I'm going to try again. This is the approval letter from DHCD. It's dated April 6th. And before that is the cover letter, which I prepared and transmitted on behalf of the planning board. And so that's dated April 14th. The letter covers the hearings that the planning board and ordinance had, and the vote on March 29th, the planning board made to unanimously recommend the amendments to city council. So I summarized them as the 40R smart growth overlay over the Northampton Street properties. There are 21 of those properties. There are 2 zoning map amendments. The first is to overlay the new area over Northampton Street parcels, and the other is to cover the Pepin School property, and then also is the affordable housing amendment to Section 6. I made mention of the fact that this is accomplishing several goals of the city and the region to try to encourage the production of more housing. Makes a change to site plan approval for certain projects, and then creates the highway corridor mixed use subdistrict. In the DHCD letter, it does acknowledge that if finally adopted, the city would get a payment. It's called an incentive payment. So that would be $250,000 for setting up this program to support and encourage more housing. And then the attachments are the letter of eligibility, the draft zoning ordinance, the smart growth design standards, and the draft maps. And so I really just wanted to show the planning board this information. The letter from DHCD was not available at the time the planning board voted. I would make a note that especially subsection D here, 1D, is that if there are substantial changes, we need to submit an annotated version. And then let's see. Item number 2 is now if there's an amendment at the council or later subsequent to that, we would need to go back to DHCD to show them. So I think I'm going to stop sharing my screen. The rest of it is the red line version that the planning board reviewed at their last meeting. So I guess that was just an update just to make sure that we had this system working where someone could remote in. So I don't know if you have questions or not.
Great. Planning board, any questions?
Well, what's the next step for us? Do we have to attend that meeting in May, or is it come back to us after the council to review and approve again, or what's the next steps?
I don't believe technically there is any other requirements for the planning board at this time. And Jesse, you can speak to that too. But I think historically your recommendation to city council is the action that you needed to take. Jesse, do you recall needing to attend that city council public hearing?
We've had a few times when the city council has asked either some or all of us or representative to attend, but I don't think this is, I mean, there's capable, I mean, they didn't have, it's not like the cannabis, right, where we had years before we even had city council ordinance come. So I think they vote, they can amend, and then we'll have to deal with the HCD if they do that, but I think our job is done. Any questions from the public about the 40R update? All right. Thank you, Jeff. Any other administrative matters, planning department, that we need to deal with?
Yeah, thought this might be a good chance to just broach the topic of planning board members attending remotely and how you might want to handle that. If you can just do it whenever you want, if you need to get approval from the chair, just wanted to bring it up in hopes of coming to a policy about it, if not today, at some point.
Yeah, so I think we can give it some thought, maybe talk about it at the next meeting. Jeff and I had talked about it a little bit. I think the way it is right now, I think we're allowed to appear remotely under the state executive order until July, and then it'll be back to the old law that it always was, which was basically like you couldn't do it very often and you had to have good cause and you had to get approval in advance and that kind of thing. I don't have any objection to any of it. I do think we probably want to know in advance who's going to be here and who's not. And I think probably, I mean, I plan on being here for all these meetings and I think it makes sense for a chair to be present, but I don't know if other people have thoughts now or if we want to wait and talk about it at the next meeting. And I don't think we have to really adopt, I guess we could adopt a policy, but James?
I mean, what we've been doing works. You know, I think in the 10 years or so we've been doing this, I might have missed 2 days, both were vacations, generally in the summer. And that's, you know, we give notice, we tell each other how it's doing. I think this actually provides an opportunity where in the past I'd go on a vacation and miss those 2 days over 10 years. Yeah. Now I can actually show up on my vacation during that time and miss no meeting. So it's actually kind of a benefit. So.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, maybe we can talk about it again at the next meeting and adopt policy. We need to.
Jeff, raised his hand.
Oh, Jeff?
Thanks. I wasn't sure if that was going to work. The only other question I think to grapple with now or later is also applicants. So, if the board is comfortable with every applicant just appearing remotely, or whether there should be a request submitted, a couple days in advance or anything like that. So I just wanted to broach the applicant idea too.
So that one we talked about too, and I feel a little stronger that the applicant should be here. Like, I don't think someone needs to fly someone in from South Carolina, but like, I would probably want to know in advance, just because I think that the presentation part gets a little bit more cumbersome when it's all remote, especially when we're hybrid. But I also wouldn't force somebody to bring somebody in like at an expense, but I don't know.
Sometimes especially for like A&Rs, the applicants just don't show.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah.
I think in A&R, there's no real pitch to make because it is the plan, right? But I think for like an actual permit or site plan approval, I would want like the expectation to be that there's someone here, but I also wouldn't say, like I said, that someone has to fly in a design expert. I know we've had a lot of applicants in the last 2 years that have been able to use people more remotely. They have a bigger team there, all this where they don't have to fly them in. But
Is the goal to give the planning department language to give to applicants as to how to approach that? And in general, I think if I'm understanding, I'll be paraphrasing, so apologize. The suggestion is that they say that you need approval from the chair to not attend if it's a special permit or a site plan.
I think that's sort of my gut and sort of the way I feel.
And you'll have to have a good reason to get that.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of implied, but I think if someone says my person is, out of town or something.
I'll tell you why it would make a difference for me personally. Looking at a set of engineering plans from
Yep.
this far away on that TV, I would just need to know I have to bring my laptop that day to be able to review how they present. It comes down to the presentation.
Or I would even want to say, like, you might only be able to present the stuff that you got as hard copies of before. So a lot of times,
That too.
remote, someone's like, here are the new plans, we made revisions based on something, and it's like,
Yeah.
I need those hard in front of me or to know that I need my laptop.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they are pointing on the screen
Yep.
to here, look at this, and I just have to know. I would want my laptop to be able to give my full,
I mean,
communication.
I think 90+% of these people are going to be local and they're going to come
Yeah.
anyway, but
Yeah.
I would want to encourage that strongly, I think, just 'cause it's easier for us.
I would just want to head.
Like a phone book, and it would have been a lot easier if
We're in person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe we'll talk about that and like adopt a policy or something at the next meeting for that too.
Are you looking to have Jeff draft something or?
I don't know, do we need to, Jeff, do you think we need to adopt a formal policy? Do we want to just sort of,
Is this only in place until July?
unless the governor extends it, or I think it's the last one is the legislature, unless it gets extended, but do you think you need a formal policy that we adopt like as part of our rules? Or do you just want like, a feeling of the group that you can pass along to applicants?
I think somewhere in the middle, to be honest, is I think at the next meeting, I'd like to put something in front of the board so that, and it may or may not happen, but I'm just trying to be prepared. So if Eli and I get a request from an applicant to appear remotely, then we'd have a process at least outlined. And the one other thing that you didn't cover is that maybe there is a main presenter who can be present, and maybe there's a sub consultant who they could ask for permission for someone from Boston to zoom in. But there would be someone else present. So just having something in place, between now and July, I don't know that we'll get an applicant who will ask, but I was fearful that we will get the question and then not have an actual answer. So.
All right, so maybe Jeff, before the next meeting, you and I can just come up with something to propose at the next meeting and we can vote on that. We'll put on the agenda or something.
Yeah. I like that idea because when I think about like some of the solar projects, the applicant, the owner might be in South Carolina, but
Right.
then the engineers in Boston. So
Yep.
they drive out here. So I'd like to have at least one person here to talk through.
Well, and someone who's presenting, right? So like, I don't mind, like, think about like the cannabis projects, right? So someone's talking about like, engineering plans, and then you've got questions for the security guy. He doesn't
Yeah.
need to look at a
No.
plan or talk to us. He can be on the phone even. And that to me is still the same value. But I do want someone in here. who's
In the
like,
room,
These are the documents, these are the drawings. That'd be my
Me
preference.
too.
But okay, so does that sound doable, Jeff, for our next meeting?
Yep, totally doable. Thanks.
All right. Anything else? Planning board, planning department? All right,
I motion to adjourn.
Second.
all right. Voting to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining? Excellent. Thank you, everyone, for our first hybrid meeting.
That went well.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.